Hello, and welcome to another video from 3.5 Archive. Today we're going to be doing our 41st D&D 3.5 Prestige class review. We're going to be looking at the Ordained Champion from the Complete Champion Sourcebook. Ordained Champions, most of them follow the Herald of Hell Hextor, although a smaller number follow the Invincible One Heronius, as these two deity brothers battle it out in an eternal war against each other of justice versus tyranny. And Ordained Champions are the primary champions of each of those deities. These are mostly clerics of war, although some paladins or anti-paladins, favored souls, shugenjas, and other such divine characters find themselves on the path of the Ordained Champion. So, to become an Ordained Champion, you're going to need to be any lawful alignment, or neutral good, or neutral evil. So you can be lawful good, lawful evil, lawful neutral, neutral good, or neutral evil. Basically, something with, law or neutrality, but not true neutral, and you can get into this prestige class. You're going to need to have 7 ranks in knowledge religion, weapon focus with the deity's favored weapon, so that's probably going to be either the flail or the longsword. You're going to need to be able to cast magic weapon as a divine spell, and you must worship either Hextor or Heronius. So the prerequisites here aren't very restrictive. All you're going to need is 7 ranks in a skill that you're probably going to have access to anyway, if you're part of a class that can cast magic weapon as a divine spell, and then you're going to need weapon focus with your deity's favored weapon. So playing a war domain cleric pretty much completes these prerequisites in itself. Any cleric can cast magic weapon as a divine spell. Almost any cleric is going to have 7 ranks in knowledge religion, and you're just going to need to have the war domain, which you're probably going to want going into this prestige class, despite some of the features it provides. So I would rate this prestige class's features as lightly restrictive. You're really not going to have to build around this at all. It requires 1 feat, which is going to be a bonus feat for you most likely, so you can do pretty much whatever you want going into this prestige class. Now, unfortunately, Heronius has the longsword as his favorite weapon rather than something a little more useful like a greatsword. But that's still okay. You can still take weapon focus in that if you'd want to. You're probably going to want to take power attack going into this prestige class at least for a little bit of extra damage. But that's about it. You could go in here as a cleric, as a fighter cleric. You go in here as a favored soul. Favored soul might be a little bit better given that some of these abilities key off of turn undead, which is going to be based off of charisma. You could multi-class those two. You could do all sorts of things to get into this prestige class. Let's take a look at what it gives you here. An Ordained Champion has a D8 hit die, good fortitude and goodwill saves, and 2+ intelligence modifier skill points per level. So it's a lot like a cleric, except unlike a cleric, it gets full base attack bonus as well. For spellcasting, this is a 5-level prestige class, and it's going to improve your existing divine spellcasting at level 2, 3, and 5. So 3 out of the 5 levels of this prestige class are going to give you some extra spellcasting. The first level will not, and that's a little bit ironic as we're going to see. So let's take a look at the features. At level 1, you're going to get the bonus domain feature. If you are a cleric, you gain the war domain as a 3rd domain. If you already have the war domain, you can choose another domain granted by your deity as your 3rd domain. So for Heronius, this is going to be Inquisition, Glory, Law, or Good. I would recommend Glory of these because it's nice to have that little bonus on turning undead. But you could also pick Inquisition if you're looking to do a lot of dispelling. It gives you +4 in dispel checks. And Good and Law don't have the worst spell lists if you want to choose those instead. This feature isn't great because odds are you're going to be going into this and already have the war domain. You're going to probably want to, especially because it gives you that weapon focus for free. So you're probably going to be picking another domain instead, and that's okay, but that's not as good as you would want it to be, given that if you do grab the war domain from this, you're going to be missing out on the bonus feat because you're going to already have weapon focus in your deity's favored weapon. So it's not that great of a feature. It gives you a 3rd domain though, which is always a good thing. It's always more spell options and the like. Also at level 1, you can permanently sacrifice 1 or 2 of your domain granted powers to get an equal number of feats from the list of fighter bonus feats. You still have to qualify for them, so nothing fighter exclusive like weapon specialization, but it's still pretty good to be able to pick up a couple more feats, Maybe you could pick up, improved Sunder off of your power attack or something like that. There are definitely plenty of fighter feats out there you could qualify for at this level. The other thing to note is that you can qualify for this prestige class as a level 4 cleric. So that means you can be coming into this as your 5th level. So you could be getting into this prestige class a little bit earlier, getting some bonus feats right off the bat, getting another domain. It's not a bad start, but the next feature is going to kind of dampen the spirits for those entering the prestige class here. You're going to get modified spontaneous casting. And this means that if you have cleric levels, you lose the ability to spontaneously cast cure or inflict spells, and instead you can swap out previously prepared cleric spells for those from the war domain. Now this sounds nice on its face, and maybe later on it is, but the first 3 levels of war domain are going to be magic weapon, magic vestment, and spiritual weapon. Now, spiritual weapon isn't a terrible spell, but magic weapon and magic vestment, odds are they're going to overlap with the already existing enhancement bonus you're probably going to have on your weapon and armor. So these feats aren't going to be that useful. So unfortunately, you're not going to be getting a lot from this early on. Now, later on, it will be nice to be able to swap out your already prepared cleric spells for Divine Power, which is one of the best cleric spells out there, for Flame Strike, which is like your version of Fireball except stronger, or for stuff like Blade Barrier, Power Word Stun, and Power Word Kill. Those are all really great spells, and you're going to get more enhancements to those later. But it does feel a little bit, disheartening to lose one of your stronger cleric abilities that gives you a lot of flexibility for something like this. If it gave it to you as a supplemental thing, that would be fantastic. Maybe even bordering on overpowered, but as is, it's, again, a little bit disappointing to lose your ability to spontaneously cast cure or inflict spells, and much more so for good aligned clerics, because being able to spontaneously cast those cure spells really helps you from being, prevents you from being relegated to being a heal bot in the party, so to speak. So not the best first level, and you don't get advancement to your spell casting as well, but you do get potentially a couple of bonus feats and another domain, so things could be worse. At level 2, you're going to gain Die Hard as a bonus feat, even if you lack the prerequisites. This is not the best feat out there, and if you already have it for some reason, you could swap it out for another feat, so that's good at least. But you're probably not going to have Die Hard, for the simple reason that a feat that only kicks in when you're at 0 hit points or below really isn't that good of a feat. It's good for NPCs and that sort that are only going to show up in one fight, but for characters, you're going to want to pick something for a feat that's going to, help prevent you from getting to, 0 or fewer hit points, not kick in right when you get there. Still, it's at least a benefit, not the worst thing to have. At least it's not the only feature you get at this level. You do get an improvement to your spellcasting, and you also get the smite ability. So this is a pretty standard smite. It lets you use one of your turn, rebuke, undead abilities as a swift action to get a bonus on your next melee attack equal to your charisma modifier, and deal extra damage equal to your total effective turning or rebuking level. So this is going to be the total of your, effectively is going to be your character level, most likely. It's going to be your cleric level, plus your ordained champion level. Your smite attack is not limited by alignment, so you can use it on anybody, but it otherwise functions like smite evil. This is nice. This is going to let you do maybe 3 per day of smite of, any type. It doesn't have to be smite evil. That's pretty nice, being able to get a little bit of extra damage there. There are going to be other uses from this prestige class for your turn undead attempts, so keep that in mind. But this is at least one use for it to keep it going early on. A lot of the time, if you're not running into undead, it can feel a little bit of a waste to have your turn undead attempts just sitting there doing nothing. So this is a nice use for them. At level 3, you're going to gain Channel Spell. This is going to let you channel any spell you have into your melee weapon as a move action, and uses up the prepared spell slot. And it basically, the next target you successfully hit with the weapon basically applies a spell to that target. Saving throws and spell resistance still apply, of course. If it's an area spell or a ray, it still affects only the creature that you hit in this case. And spell channeled into a weapon lasts for 8 hours. So you could do this before combat. For example, you could put a Flame Strike in there. Or, better yet, something like a Blindness, Deafness, Bestow Curse, Poison, Slay Living. Any spell like that. Put it into your weapon, and, even if they save against the spell, you still manage to hit. You could potentially do this, before combat as a move action, assuming your DM allows that sort of thing, and then just go ahead and do a full attack, and only the first, hit is going to count for, discharging the spell, but it is making a little bit more use out of your actions on your turn. So this is a great ability. This is excellent. This is kind of like what the Duskblade has, except it can apply to any cleric spell, so it gives you a ton more flexibility. It's not quite as good as the Duskblade ability because it requires a move action, but it's still pretty great to have. Also at 3rd level, you gain Divine Bulwark. This lets you sacrifice a prepared spell or spell slot as a swift action to gain damage reduction, equal to 1 plus the spell level sacrificed, and it's going to last a number of rounds equal to your Ordained champion level, so up to 5 rounds. So by this level, it will probably last for a whole combat. So this allows you to use, if you're getting to this point, 3rd level, you're probably going to have, maybe 4th level, 3rd or 4th level cleric spells. So this will get you damage reduction 3 / chaotic, which isn't bad at all to have. Multiple uses ability doesn't stack the damage reduction, so that's fair. Damage reduction is always nice. These sorts of abilities that let you convert spell slots into something like damage reduction are always nice to have. It seems like a waste of a spell slot, but if you end up getting through the adventuring day without having used that spell slot, then it's just going to be a waste anyway. So it just adds some more flexibility for you. At level 4, you're going to gain Fist of the Gods. This is similar to Divine Bulwark, except it lets you sacrifice the spell slot for damage. This applies to all your damage rolls. It's a bonus of 1 plus the spell level sacrificed on all your damage rolls for melee attacks for a number of rounds equal to your Ordained champion level. So this is even better. This adds to your offensive capability. And if you're getting off 2 or 3 attacks, this is going to be like maybe +6, maybe to +18 damage if you're really lucky and land all of your hits. For just like a 3rd level spell slot, for example. You're not going to probably be using this a lot. You're probably going to want to use your spell slots instead. But it is a nice thing to have if you're, getting to the end of the adventuring day and you have some spell slots that you're not going to be able to use up. Being able to do this as a swift action really sells it. Again, it's all about flexibility here. It gives you a little bit more to use your spell slots for. Also, at 4th level, you're going to gain Rapid Spontaneous Casting. This lets you spontaneously cast, any spell from the war domain as a swift action instead of its normal casting time if it's, 1 standard action, or use it as a standard action if it's, a full round action spell casting duration, or casting time rather. So being able to cast one of these spells as a swift action is great. This lets you do a Flame Strike as a swift action, for example, and then still, do a full attack if you want to. So this is great for your character's, actions and output. Again, you only get 1 swift action, so you're not going to be able to use Divine Bulwark or Fist of the Gods while doing this. But, this is probably even better than either one of those in, 90% of cases. Being able to lay out a Flame Strike or to do something like, Divine Power is absolutely fantastic to be able to do that as a swift action and not waste around casting it. So this is a fantastic ability, and this probably sells the Prestige class on its own. That alongside the the full base attack, which, if you're doing Divine Power, you don't really need. But when you don't have it up, it's good to have. This is so far a really excellent Warrior Priest Prestige class. So at 5th level, you gain Holy Warrior. This lets you spend 1 daily use of your Turn Rebuke Undead ability to bring your Wisdom into play in combat. For the next 5 rounds, you can use your Wisdom modifier in place of your Strength modifier on attack and damage rolls in melee. Presumably in melee, it doesn't specify. But even so, most likely it's going to be in melee. You're going to be using this the most if it's using strength. So this is pretty great. Odds are you already invested a fair bit in strength, and this being something else that's competing for uses of your Turn Rebuke Undead, you're not going to be wanting to be using this a whole ton, but it is good once in a while. Your Wisdom probably is going to be higher than your Strength. So it's a good way to get a little bit of extra attack bonus once in a while. I wouldn't see myself using this as much as some of the other abilities, like even Channel Spell, or Divine Bulwark or any of the others. But those aren't competing for uses of Turn Rebuke Undead like this is. So it's a good one to have. You might be using your Smite more often than this. It's probably going to be a better bonus, but still something to have. Probably one of the weaker features. And also at 5th level, you gain Warcaster, which gives you +2 to your effective caster level when casting spells from the War Domain spell list. So this will help spells like, Blade Barrier, for example, will help buff up your caster level for that until it maxes out at 15d6. that's good to have. You know, it's going to help make up for the fact that your spellcasting progression slowed down a little bit from this prestige class. Still not the best capstone ability. I could definitely see this being a 4-level, dip, if you could call it that. I could see going 4 levels into this, just to get that Fist of the Gods and that rapid spontaneous casting. That's going to give you absolutely fantastic damage output, action output, really anything. I could definitely see skipping the 5th level. Yeah, you're going to get another advancement to your spell casting, but you could get that just from going back to Cleric. So no real reason to focus on that. Overall, I would give this prestige class 3 stars for concept, 4 stars for execution. The main thing holding it back is its rather mediocre first level. That's definitely a little bit of a hill to get over. Die Hard isn't the greatest feat. Smite is nice, but it does rely a little bit on charisma, but it's still great to have. It's still a good use for your turn undead attempts. Channel Spell is pretty excellent. Divine Bulwark and Fist of the Gods provide you some great flexibility. Rapid Spontaneous Casting is absolutely fantastic. And, Holy Warrior and Warcaster are a little bit lackluster of features. Some people will look at the ability to use Wisdom to attack and be, absolutely enamored of it. But if you're investing into Strength already, it's probably not going to be that much of a bonus, and it, is going to be requiring you to use up one of those turn undead abilities you might want to be saving for something else. So I could see this being, 4 levels. That's what I would go for in this. How would I change this prestige class? The bonus domain, you're probably already going to have it. I would still have it in here. The combat feats, being able to get those bonus combat feats to start out is great. The modified spontaneous casting is probably the biggest thing that's holding this prestige class back. Making it an optional thing so you can still spontaneously convert to cure is nice, but it does, I suppose, take away from some of the compelling choice of choosing this prestige class and choosing to give up that ability in order to focus on your more warlike talents. So perhaps doing so would actually cheapen this prestige class in a lot of ways. It is 5 levels, which is pretty compact, and it definitely wouldn't be a good idea to expand it to 10 levels. It's good at 5. Maybe it could be condensed to 3, but that might be, condensing it, concentrating it a little bit too much. It's pretty good as is. It does have some lackluster features, but that's to be expected. The prerequisites for it are nothing to complain about, and overall, I definitely would recommend this prestige class for any War Domain Cleric. Even if you're not following Heronius, maybe you can get your Dungeon Master to rework or, reflavor it in some way so that you can take it, because this is a great prestige class and one I would definitely recommend. Is it perfect? No. It's definitely not the most powerful one out there, but it's pretty excellent. And while you do lose some spellcasting ability, and that probably is actually the worst part, much more so than the modified spontaneous casting, the abilities that it provides you are probably worth it. Yeah, you are going to end up having fewer spell slots to feed into abilities that want you to sacrifice them, but being able to do that rapid spontaneous casting is going to let you get a little bit more use out of your spells. Same with Channel Spell. So this is going to be a great way to, use your spells more creatively in combat and more flexibly, and, also be able to just do more with your turn. And that probably is going to be a little bit more fun and fulfilling than having just another, level of spells to work with. So overall, I would definitely recommend this prestige class, and I think that will be about it for this D&D 3.5 prestige class review. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and so on. And I will see you next time here on 3.5 Archive.